I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Sunnyvale 4A Development Corporation Board of Directors regular meeting on Wednesday, June 19th at 5:01 p.m. We do have a quorum and all members are present. We're going to go ahead and move into executive session, recess into executive session pursuant to Chapter 551, Subchapter D of the Texas Governmental Code. Executive session agenda, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney. Okay.
Are y'all done?
Yeah.
Don't listen.
We're gonna.
We don't have to get in front of the little
Are you ready?
TV screen thing.
Nope.
Are you ready for me?
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna reconvene into open session at 5:27 p.m. and there's no action necessary as a result of the executive session. So, we're going to skip the public forum. There's no one here for that, and move into discussion action items. Number 1, discuss and consider and act upon the regular meeting minutes for May 8th, 2019. You
So I
should have those in
sent
front of
them to you this afternoon, and I also had a copy if anybody needs them.
Is this the one you want me to sign? No.
Yes, please.
I make a motion that we
Page 2,
accept the May
but
minutes
they recommended.
as presented.
They
Okay.
recommended. That's just a typo.
I have a motion, got a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Cash and a second from Mr. Weeks to approve the regular meeting minutes from March, wait a minute, sorry, looking at the wrong one. To approve the regular meeting minutes from May 8th, 2019. All in favor? All right, passes unanimously. Move on to item number 2. Discuss and consider and act upon April 2019 financial reporting and related items. Ms. Phillips.
Okay.
Who
As
made
of
the
April
motion?
30th,
Seconded?
2019, we had
First.
year-to-date revenues of $300,964.62. Year-to-date expenses of $89,995.46. The revenue sales tax reported year-to-date is $236,168.92. That includes 2 months accrual, 5 months actual. Interest earned year-to-date is $10,028.93.
An extra
And the
copy of
special
the
assessment
minutes, because I
receipts
usually kind of
year-to-date
mark
total
on there who's motion and second. I sign that one, please.
The year-to-date expenses total $89,995.46, and the month-to-date expenses included routine payroll, legal fees, the membership renewal, and some expenses related to the Main Street and the ICSC conferences. That gave us a net revenue as of 4/30 of $210,969, bringing your total fund balance to $2,541,421. How about $2,541,421 and an unassigned fund balance of $2,353,921.
I make a motion to approve the April financials as presented.
Second.
I have a motion for Mr. Bokniak and a second from Mr. Poor to approve the April 2019 financials as reported. All in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Move on to item number 13. Number 3. Discuss and consider and act upon May 2019 financial reporting and related items.
Okay, as of May the 31st, 2019, we had year-to-date revenues of $345,997.34 and year-to-date expenses of $190,929.07. Sales tax reported year-to-date was $279,717.42. Interest year-to-date $11,513.15, and your special assessment receipts year-to-date $54,766.77. Year-to-date expenses total $190,929.07, and our month-to-date expenses included routine payroll. We had some legal fees, a sponsorship and registration for TEDC, expenses related to the ICSC conference. We also paid out part of those assigned funds for Hope Development. We paid half of that out this month, that incentive payment. That brought us, as of 5/31/2019, we have a net revenue of $155,068, bringing your total fund balance to $2,485,520. You've got $93,750 assigned now after that payment to Hope Development, bringing your unassigned fund balance to $2,391,770.
Just a quick question. Sales tax revenues were 45,000 this month compared to 30 the previous month. Pretty big jump. Was that just normal?
It seems to us that, of course, the sales tax revenues for May that we receive or recorded in May are actually for March of 2000. And it seems like every time we hit a quarter, a quarter ending day, that the receipts are a little bit bigger. And that might be because some people maybe set up to where they pay their sales tax quarterly as opposed to paying it monthly.
So starting in June with all the stuff that's happening, we're going to see that number pick up now starting in June for sales tax receipts to 4A.
Yes.
And that should be in the 60 to 65,000 range, I guess, or maybe a little higher.
Yeah.
So
Closer to probably
the
60.
payment made to Hope, I thought it was an all or nothing thing. Was it not? You know, when they did the infrastructure and provided the receipts, it wasn't we pay them when they do that, or was that?
It was twofold. It was they got half of their payment upon completion of the infrastructure, and then half when they get their CO.
Okay, okay, gotcha. I'm good with
Which I
that.
think that we're still anticipating having that paid
By the
before the
end
end of the
This fiscal year. Okay.
Good question, Mr. Treasurer, you're right on top.
I make a motion to approve the May financials as presented.
Second.
I have a motion for Mr. Bokniak and a second for Mr. Corr to approve the May 2019 financials as presented. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Okay, item number 4. Discuss, consider, and act upon the recommended 2019-2020 budget.
And everyone should have gotten
This is what's passed out.
a good, we had some last minute changes that we had to make on Monday. So the copy that was included in your packet isn't the most recent copy. So the copy that you're looking at, the one that's in color, should be the most recent. The only changes that we went through here, especially, let me just say, especially on the detail, we tried to highlight in red the items that changed from last year, so that maybe it gives you a better idea of, you know, why the numbers are where they are. But the only changes that we made from this presentation as opposed to the last presentation you had on your budget were related to payroll. We moved the administrative services budget, which was sitting out there at $10,000. That is for the part-time assistant that the EDC director has now. We moved that $10,000 up into the wages and salaries category. And then there was also a merit increase included in those numbers. So
What's the 20,000 for contractual? For some reason, I was thinking that was the part-time. So it's
no, that's promotional services. That is, it can't be more than 10% of your total sales tax receipts, but when we went through and did this, I think Tracy said that last year we budgeted exactly 10%, but didn't spend all of it. So we lowered it this year
Make
to
it
the $20,000.
realistic.
okay. So that 62,710 includes the part-time person and a merit increase or salary increase for
That's
Tracy?
correct.
How much was the salary increase?
That information's not shared with me, so I just get payroll numbers from
Just
our
get
payroll
numbers,
person,
okay.
so
I
I don't
follow.
know what part of it is merit and what part of it is, you know, I don't know if Tracy has that.
I don't, and
Yeah.
I actually wondered if that was in there, because if you add the 10,000 to the 40,000, then that doesn't even increase that by 10,000.
Yeah,
So I wasn't real sure how that all worked in that.
yeah, well, keep in mind, I can get some better detail from Gretchen maybe, she could provide me, that's our HR payroll person. You know, that information is confidential, so what she really gives me is just, here's your numbers, and so I just kind of plug them into the categories, but I can certainly get some better information.
I was just
better
curious because
detail, yeah.
the board's recommended,
Okay.
you know,
All
a
right.
salary
Sorry,
increase. So I
okay.
was just curious because I was told that it wasn't going to be in the budget yet. So, but you're saying
That
it
was
is.
part of our, that was part of our.
Well, I
last
do
minute
know, I
updates
think
on
that
Monday.
what we're being told is across the board, they're giving like a 3% raise to
I've heard that.
employees. But I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know all the,
I think,
but I
yeah.
did have that, I was looking at this earlier today, going through it, and just add the question of if we went from the amended budget and then we added the 10,000.
Right, but all $10,000 does not go into, the wages and salaries. Part of that 10,000 goes into, the payroll taxes. Part of that 10,000 goes into employee insurance.
Gotcha.
So not all 10,000 is reflected in just that very top line item.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And that's just half, because she's getting paid 20.
That's right, the other half is being picked up by 4B. So the only other change that we made from the prior presentation is we adjusted the sales tax category in your revenues there to now reflect that half cent. So that was adjusted from $431,250 to $862,500. So based on these changes, we are proposing revenues totaling $932,760 and expenses totaling $920,374. That is going to give you a net revenue at the end of 1920, if 100%, of course, comes to pass. Net revenue of $12,386, which will bring your ending fund balance to $1,776,455. And let me also say too, because it's a little deceiving, when you look at the your year-to-date financials for May 30th, 2019, you can see your fund balance on that is considerably higher than what we're showing our proposed beginning fund balance to be. And the difference between that is, for budget purposes, we use the amended budgeted numbers for our beginning fund balance for the next year. So, and the financials that you all see each month, of course, reflects actual numbers.
But we're
So-
closer to that number than we are at $1,174,764.
Well, right now you're at $2,485,000.
What I'm saying is we're a lot closer
Yes,
to this than we are to
yes,
that.
but this is an actual number to start 18-19. This right here is where we anticipate ending 18-19. If we were to spend 100%, odds are we're not going to hit.
Right.
We're not going to hit $1 million in expenses this year. So this ending fund balance is going to be higher, and that's what carries forward to the next year.
Well, and I guess based on the new information that we have this big top-line revenue increase. My suggestion is going to be we move money in this budget probably from incentives to infrastructure improvements, because that's where it's going to go. We know where it's going to go, right?
Oh, wait,
I
sorry.
mean, our budget is going up $430,000, and we're going to be called on to contribute that to infrastructure. That's what's going to happen. So to me, instead of having $150,000 in infrastructure and $500 in incentives, why wouldn't we reflect that better to say we know where it's going to go?
So we
Right?
just added legal, I mean,
I mean,
line item,
I
street
wouldn't.
funds.
Well, we could, or we can call it capital improvements or whatever. I mean, I don't want to create more detail if we don't have to.
Right.
But I think the point is, we got $500,000 in incentives, we got $150 in infrastructure, when the likelihood is the bulk of it's going to go
There.
to infrastructure.
Right, and it's just, no changes were made to this simply because we had presented it to you
Right,
all,
sure.
and you haven't had a chance to review it and, come back with any feedback on any changes that you want to make.
My only feedback would be, let's get the labor thing straightened out and make sure that's right. And then, those other line items, I was okay, we went over those already for the most part. So to me, it's
Yeah.
just shuffling this a bit.
Well, and I wouldn't,
In June, or July, can we approve it in July?
we can approve it next month.
Oh, okay.
I would recommend just keeping the incentives the way it is, because we went through all of that to try and get that changed to where it is. And for accounting purposes, like being able to have that just as a line item, should we give any incentives. I know of a couple coming down the pipeline. So kind of leaving that. But then if you want to take what we would essentially get from street maintenance and take all of that and put it into the capital improvements.
A good chunk of it, don't you think?
I think so, makes sense. Agree.
Because
What
we're going
about
to come
the-
out of this year with a higher fund balance than what we're projecting anyway, so. our top line's gonna be better, much better than what we're showing, so.
So
And
that way it just
If-
allocates that to.
Remember, my issue was, can we even justify the 500? I wanna make sure we're just, not just grabbing some big number out of the air and saying, we think we'll do 500 incentives, and it sounds
Well,
like you.
when we first initially got this number and got it approved at mid-year, when we put all the incentives together, it was almost $700,000, and then split that between the two, and it ended up just rounding it up to 500,000.
So if we bump that number to 400 instead of 150 for infrastructure,
What
or
was
it
your,
would be higher than that?
what was your question,
I think
James?
if we let Phyllis kind of figure out what that street maintenance fund is, that will be, like what she thinks over the next year will be allocated to that, and then can take that money and stick that into the,
Well, she'll know, she
Well,
knows
it's-
what it is.
Yeah, it's gonna be the 431,000.
That's exactly what she's got.
Imagine
So,
that.
yeah,
So
So
if
then
you wanted
just
to
add
kick,
that's just what's
at
currently budgeted.
431,000.
so instead of 150, what if we put
400.
450 in there? Because we were gonna use some of our own money for infrastructure potentially as well, right?
Mhm.
And then if we did our 100 for us and,
To make it 450 instead of 150 under
Uh,
capital improvements?
But
I would make
remember,
it-
we're sort of hamstrung. I mean, we can only spend money on projects that justify 4A, 4B money on.
Bucks-
So,
I'll
I mean,
bet you a
think
buck
we're gonna
they
go all
find
the way
them.
with it?
they're gonna find it.
Johnson Road.
Well, and it's not that we don't have to spend
It's
it
got a
if it's in
parking
there,
space, so-
right?
No, we don't, and it doesn't have to be allocated in there.
Two parks.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're,
Well, I will say that, you know, we're probably gonna need to be able to put some sort of description in there to justify jumping it up to $450,000. So
Okay.
if you have, you know, if there is something in mind, and I don't know what that might be. 'Cause-
Well, let me ask you, where's the
Yeah.
250, where does the 250 stand for the other road? Has that been approved by anybody? For us spending to fix that road in the business
the
park?
parking lot?
Mhm.
Oh, the South Aston?
Aston.
Aston.
Yeah, because that was 250.
Yeah, where it was,
It hadn't been approved at the time we did this. Mhm.
So we're
that-
already
So my
under.
question is, where is that?
well, no, we did. So we did, remember we did we thought that only maybe 100,000 would be spent this year for it, and then 150, we put 150 in next
For next
year's.
year.
That's
So that
fine.
we thought that part of it would be paid this year, part of it next year.
That's
Gotcha.
fine.
Are they going to get to, do you think they're gonna get to any of it this year?
Depends on who we,
Who would choose to do it? Okay.
I mean, I'll let you handle how you roll a project from one year to the next, but it's gonna, has that been approved by council?
Mhm.
It has,
That's the
okay.
last thing I think.
So to me, I mean,
We've already spent our
you're saying we
infrastructure.
can't just goose the infrastructure budget without having,
Right, I mean, cause then it, you know, it looks
Stronger.
like you're just, you know, it's like a
well, we can
placeholder,
still
we're just
title
gonna
it
put here,
infrastructure
yeah.
improvements,
Mhm.
because it would, I mean, a road infrastructure.
Yeah, it can,
I
it
mean,
can
it's
go in that
still-
category for sure.
And, I mean, I think that council will understand where that's
Mm.
coming from,
They
because
sure
they know
will.
the.
Well, it's nice to kind of
Telling
let,
us where it's going.
Yeah.
That's how that's gonna work.
it's kind of nice though to let them know that we're willing to spend that money we're going to get back now on roads. And
Oh,
by
yeah.
putting it in our budget, we're saying that.
So do we wanna list it as infrastructure improvements
Mhm.
/ street?
I would just leave it as infrastructure
Structure
improvements.
improvements, okay, alright.
Because that's what a street is.
And we're going to raise that to a budget of $450,000.
That's my suggestion.
Right, okay.
because
So
150,
you're gonna
we,
take 300,000.
150 we know we've committed to,
Mhm.
So that just
and then
leaves,
300 of the 430 we're slamming in there. And if they want us to break our budget,
Mhm.
they'll be the ones telling us to do it.
Okay.
What, and our question is, I know we talked about it last time, but what about the consultation and engineering costs and stuff like that? We talked, those are proposals that'll come when we have to get outside help for consultations and designs. Where's that in this line item?
Well, one of them is in the town beautification budget numbers.
Were you looking at that?
We had kind of a catch-all in there
That was the gateway
engineering,
signage and.
maybe a
That's-
right of way or something, just, well, I mean, we didn't know what the numbers were gonna be, but
So-
we,
I don't s-
Consultation and engineering is part of that?
I
yeah,
don't-
as far as that consultation for that project, that was included in those numbers.
But I see where he's coming from, because there's engineering fees and other stuff.
Is it-
so-
What is the
250.
contractual services?
Is that where it's at?
Where's, where y'all looking at?
Where is contractual
20,
services?
oh,
at?
that's promotional services.
Yeah.
It's on the, it was just on the front page here. So it's,
Yeah, well, it's just that those are category
that's a
headings.
good-
and it should be something under contractual services.
Well, is the engineering that you're referring to with respect to what? To what project?
Like, I was just thinking about when we were talking about getting outside consultants to help design master plan downtown or whatever y'all were looking at. We were talking
Okay,
about
would
different
that go
things.
under your promotional services, Tracy? I mean, because I'm
No.
thinking engineering related costs could probably be, could that come out of your capital?
Project
If that's
part
part
of
of the
that.
project cost for
It
the
could be.
street, could we include it in that category?
Can you change that name? That's a bad name. You see
Here's
what that
the-
is?
Yes, here's the deal with these, here's the deal with these category on your fund summary page, these category, they are tied to all the funds throughout the town, not just the EDCs, but they're tied to the general fund, they're tied to the utility fund, the impact funds. So to make a change for one, you have to change it for everybody. So that is the reason why. We can, I can manually go in there and change it, each time. We only
I don't
look
see
at
this
this
very
once
often.
a year.
Yeah.
So
So-
we could certainly go in there and, the next time we see it, I can try to change the
Because it's
heading
really
on a little
promotional
bit, yeah.
services what that line is.
Oh, they're, and unfortunately, after so many years of people adding new accounts, taking line items away, adding a new line item, they don't really fall into a lot of these categories, to be honest with you.
But promotional services is more of an advertisement,
It
right?
is, but that's what that line is. If you look at the next page, that's what that line is.
It falls under this
That
contractual
20,000
services.
Is really promotional.
Okay, we got it. Right.
But
We
Okay,
got 10
so
minutes,
right now,
actually.
the only change we want to make at this point is to increase the capital improvements line item from 150,000 to 450,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Let them know we know
Yes.
what they're gonna make us do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's like saying that we're willing to spend money even though that we're getting it on, if we put it in there. It's kind of telling them, hey. Okay.
Be creative.
10 minutes.
I know,
Okay, the
I
only
just
other
told
thing
them
I
that.
wanted to mention that Tracy passed out to you, we put together a little spreadsheet so that everybody could kind of keep an idea.
Thank
This is
you.
going to go along with that budget line item for incentives, kind of gives you an idea of what you have approved so far, kind of what's left of that $500,000. Hope is up here at the top because that was an assigned fund, and it wasn't included in that $500,000. So this just kind of keeps you aware, and then we can use it as a tool too for the next year or at mid-year if a change needs to be made based on, what's been approved. This will kind of be our little key.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a
guys.
good thing. The difficulty is you approve it in one year and you typically pay it the next. So you
Right.
gotta,
And, yeah, the
Hard-
timing of
hard
some
to
of
track.
these events,
that's
yes.
good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so do we want to wait and improve the budget next month when we get the changes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we ready to move on to item number 5?
Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Crayons.
Okay,
Oh, that's all right.
number 5, discuss and consider and act upon the economic development incentive guidelines and application.
No, you can have it if you want. So real quick, I think most of you have the incentives. So one of the changes that was made last night from 4B was under general purpose and objectives. What they wanted it to say, you see that there was kind of already some deletions and additions and all that under general purpose. But what they ended up coming back with was, what if we simplified that a little bit and just said the town of Sunnyvale is committed to attracting unique businesses that provide a diverse tax base and amenities to meet the needs and desires of the residents. This includes businesses that drive growth and facilitate job creation and retention, and then go into success and economic development ensures in the rest of that paragraph.
Sounds good.
I'm ready with that.
The other thing under methodology, the second one, is there's a lot of question on if we could say that incentives may be utilized only as inducements that would not otherwise occur. Incentives will not be considered if the building permit for new construction has already begun. This paragraph, I guess, has hung up several people, but ultimately, realistically, this is how incentives should be given, not how we've been giving them that they're already here, they're already done, now we're giving them money. It should be, they're not coming but for that incentive.
Right.
And these have kind of been some very unique opportunities that we've had, some promises and some of them that were made that we had to fulfill. And now we're at a point where we can move forward and do them based on them not already being here.
You
They're
think
already
we
here.
can?
I think that it is a good consideration. I think there's another project that's going to come before us that we'll ask that has come before the town before, and we'll see that one again. And they are here, they do have the land, anyway, that project will come later. But, so I think you'll still see some instances where that may not be the case, but that's why it says on a case-by-case basis. We can look at it if we can justify why we're giving it to them as opposed to not giving it to them, then we have that option to be able to do that.
So the language says, once you're already here, basically don't come and ask us for money.
Yes.
But we can go back to the case-by-case thing
Yes.
and reconsider
Mhm.
if they already here, and it's a
Right.
good. I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
And you'll probably maybe even learn that a little bit tonight, that that's typically EDC's give incentives to entice people to come, not to
I
people
agree,
that are
just that
already-
we're shifting gears.
Yeah.
We set some precedents.
Yes.
There's going to potentially be some blowback.
But a lot of the businesses may not even be aware of the availability of money until after they've
Well,
committed on
and
something.
my argument in that instance is we haven't had a guideline. We're now putting this together, we're moving forward with something, and this is how it's typically, and I mean, I probably pulled 10 different incentive policies and they all have the same thing
That's
in
fine.
them.
Okay.
I'm good
The next
with it. Are you guys?
question,
You okay with it?
I'm okay.
It's odd, but go ahead.
well, I'm more than
Yeah.
happy to.
No. I don't see why we wouldn't consider continuing to make incentives, loans, et cetera, to existing businesses. We have a lot of.
No, this isn't saying existing. So existing businesses, yes, totally different.
We got the matching
This
grant and all
is,
that.
Starbucks came in, they bought a lot, they've already started building, and then they say, oh, by the way, we want to
Kind of like
have an
Chick-fil-A,
incentive.
they're already coming and they want money. Kind of, right?
So not for like,
So if you'll just say every time, it's kind of like Chick-fil-A, I'll vote against it. Or whatever.
so that's why, if they're
Okay,
already
all
here
right,
established.
now I see the difference. I thought we were talking
No, that is for the attraction part, not the.
Marazzi and some of
Yeah,
those guys.
none
that
of
wanted to
those.
Oh, yeah.
extend.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm with you now.
And then added the NAICS codes in here to
Yep.
be able to readily see those accessible for what primary projects are. And then I took the verbiage over the next couple of pages for projects that came straight from the Texas Government Code. On fast track services, I don't know what page numbers y'all have versus what I have, but
It's
on
page
mine it's
7.
page 7. So it's right under available
She can read it now,
incentives.
okay.
And
So full.
we're taking that out completely. We don't have fast track services.
Good.
So we're gonna just remove that portion. The, under targeted services, the last part, there was a couple of questions on ROI. And the verbiage kind of.
Whoa. There was one that bugged the heck out of me. Page 7,
Mhm.
She sent it to us.
job creation, where,
That.
and should at least include health benefits.
Updated incentive
No,
guidelines.
I have a really hard time with that.
Add.
That one got
Monday.
added in at the request of, or
Yeah.
Susan added that one in.
why are we telling business how they have to do that? What if they don't pay health benefits because it's a restaurant or whatever and they don't contribute to health
I
care?
don't know which one
I
it
mean,
is though.
why
Maybe it's
would
that.
we get into their business?
It's Monday.
I
Yeah,
did
but
not
there's
like that
4
addition at
attachments.
all.
Okay,
And that's, I may be speaking for myself and it's just,
I agree,
We're
they
gonna
shouldn't be
be down
burdened
in
with
there
that extra cost just to
We have to be done.
It's the first.
incentive guidelines.
It's first.
that's an easy fix.
Yeah, 3
Yeah, but
minutes.
it's not red
Delete.
line.
3 minutes, man.
The ROI portion, there was some question about, are we really saying that it shouldn't be larger than 10%? So we went back and just said provision shall be a minimum of a return on investment of 10 to 1. So just to kind of give you an idea, we had the Vince Hagen Company, their agreement was a 40 to 1 ROI. The Kearney's was a 30 to 1 ROI, and then we had Hope Coffee. I can't
40 to
remember what
1
it
is
was,
40
but-
months? 30
yeah,
months?
how, over what period of
What-
time?
what is 40?
Well,
41.
and that's where this is going to cut. So our sheet that we have calculations on at the bottom, it says what our
Tax
return on
revenues.
investment is, and so our return on investment essentially was 26 days for the Vince Hagen Company. And so when calculated out, it comes out to a 40 to 1 ROI based on funds.
Based on tax revenue
That's
versus
Yes.
what
based
we
on a
give
year.
them, right?
Yes.
So 40 to 1 has nothing to do with the term.
No, just saying that our return on investment, so for $1
Should be
million
minimum.
that's being spent of capital investment, we're getting $100,000 out of that. Sorry, no, out of $1 million, I'm like focused on, out of $1 million that they spend in capital investment, they cannot get more than $100,000 in
Okay,
incentive.
yeah, I understand the 10%, it's the 40 to 1, 30 to 1
So
ratio
out
I didn't
of
understand.
what their capital investment was for the Vince Hagen Company and
Mhm.
what our incentive was to them ended up being a 40 to 1 ROI.
Their investment was 40 times our investment?
Yes.
Okay, all right, now I'm with you. When you said
Sorry,
40
the
to 1, I thought,
financial
did that
terms
mean a
are-
40-month
saying.
return?
No,
What did it
sorry,
mean?
yes, financial
That's a
wise.
good question, thank you for clarifying
Because
that.
40 would still be below 65 years, which is our normal target. So
Mhm.
40 wouldn't be a bad return, if that was the way you were calculating. I'll shut up now, you may go on.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, that's good clarification, appreciate it.
That was really the big questions. Other than that, it was just kind of insertions and deletions. There was one other thing, it came out of our open meetings training that we had, that anybody that receives public or private funds, that money is also subject to the open records. So I added a line item that said any public or private entity that spends or that is supported in whole or in part by public funds is also subject to open records. So that took care of that.
I just had a brief suggestion.
Mhm.
I would define town of Sunnyvale as town in the beginning, parentheses town, because you got it all, it's all changed now through here. I mean, you've got town of Sunnyvale, sometimes you say town, just call it town, and I think you've got it covered throughout the document, would be my recommendation, but that's kind of a nitpick, but
Okay, we can do that.
saves words. But it's up to you.
So then if the rest of it is okay, and if nobody has any questions, what I'd really like is for an adoption of this policy and application, and just kind of the approved with the corrections. And just, this is a living document, we'll review it again. On a yearly basis, I'd like to get into a habit of reviewing all of our policies, our strategic plan, and be able to go through it, so.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the incentive policy with the corrections as discussed.
Okay, I have a motion for Mr. Cash and a second for Mr. Weeks to approve where am I at here? Economic Development Incentive Guidelines and Application as presented or as discussed. All in favor? Passes unanimously. We've on to item number 6, discuss board request for future agenda items and events. Let's just send anything to Tracy if we want to add anything, since we need to close. Is that good with everybody?
Not good.
All right, so we will adjourn our meeting at 6:01 PM.
Cutting it close. Just crazy.
There is.
Oh, and by the way, just quickly, if you take, on this account number, if you take wages and salaries, TMRS, payroll taxes, and employee insurance, and you total all that, it totals this, 62710. But I will get with Susan to find out, because we requested 3%
And the mileage is not on
and
there.
a 6K.